Welcome back, dear viewers, and you are in Cairo local time, and in the end of our program we will talk about Egypt's celebrations of 200 years of Egyptology, as Egypt is celebrating the bicentenary of the decipherment of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and the creation of Egyptology with a batch of new events and social media campaign. The celebration started on the 1st of September and lasted until 27th of September and featured major events at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo's Tahrir Square to mark the day when pioneering French Egyptologist Jean-François Champollion succeeded in deciphering ancient Egyptian writing at the beginning of the 19th century, and to celebrate World Tourism Day. And to shed more light on the importance of this event and on these celebrations, we are joined over the phone by Mr. Elhamy Ziat. He is a tourism expert. Good afternoon, Mr. Elhamy.
Good afternoon.
So, sir, as I've just mentioned, that Egypt was celebrating from the 1st of September till the 27th of September the 200 years of Egyptology in Egypt and the decipherment of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. So, sir, can you tell us more about this?
The actual stone of Rosetta, where Champollion was able to decipher the hieroglyphs.
Yes.
It was discovered in 1799 by one of the officers of Napoleon while he was in Egypt. Actually, when he came to Egypt.
Yes.
And then the British, in order to let him out, to let his army out of Egypt, because Napoleon escaped earlier on a small boat, and to let his army get back to France, they took 10 of the things the French had discovered, among which was the Rosetta Stone. And the Rosetta Stone, which is now at the British Museum, Champollion never saw it. He saw copies, he saw everything except the Rosetta Stone itself. And he was able, through all the copies he had, to discover the hieroglyphs. Champollion started first by discovering the cartouche, where the names of the kings and the queens were written. And by starting discovering Cleopatra and Ptolemaeus, the T, the L, the E, he managed to start deciphering the hieroglyphs. It took him between the time he had the first copies, which was about 1800, until 1822, to decipher the hieroglyphs. And he was a scholar, of course, and he practiced 17 languages, among which the Coptic and the Arabic. And this what helped him a lot decipher the hieroglyphs was basically the Coptic. And then he was stunned by not being able to find the S, which was written in Cleopatra and Ptolemaeus especially. And finally, he discovered it from the Bible, the S, when he discovered the word Moses. As a linguistic, he was able to practice all these languages, so he was able to, it's a very tedious effort he spent. And then he came finally to visit Egypt in 1928,
Yes.
where he met Muhammad Ali Pasha, and as you know, as a reward, he took back the obelisk, which is now in the Place de la Concorde in France. And he convinced Muhammad Ali not to take the stones of the pyramids to build the barrage or the dam at what we call the Karater al-Khairiyya. Because the way they did it, he wanted to take the stones of the pyramids. And he convinced him not to do so. So he has a big merit in deciphering the hieroglyphs, launching Egyptology, and also Egyptomania. Because Egyptomania is the love of Egypt, because it was at this time that really hit its maximum, and people started knowing about Egypt and wanted to visit Egypt. The very interesting thing is that between then and Mariette Pasha, when he took over the antiquity department in Egypt, we had no real French discovery. It was mostly foreigners, German and Lit. And the French only back later, at the end of the 19th century, when Mariette Pasha came to Egypt, that they started working on Egyptology. So it's 50 or 60 years between this and the event of the French discovering more or writing more about Egypt. But definitely, most of the writings about Egypt are in French language. Then it's the English language. So unfortunately, we don't have too many books in Arabic, which we should have. Also, it celebrates the Opet, which is the feast when the statue of the god Amun-Ra went to meet his wife in Luxor Temple. So that is the alley of the Sphinx or the rams. It depends. We have as many rams as we have Sphinx. You know, it's in Luxor. It's between Karnak and Luxor Temple. This is the time when they started also finding the first traces of this alley and how, what about the Opet, which is the feast celebrating the visit of the god to the goddess. And this is, until now, we have a mosque in the Luxor Temple, and this mosque, Abu al-Haggag. And until now, when they celebrate the birthday of Abu al-Haggag, they follow the same ritual, which was followed by the ancient Egyptians. And nobody told them what it was, but they celebrated in the same manner, except with the boats on the Nile, with everything that the ancient Egyptians used to do.
Yes, Mr. Elhamy, also the discovery of the Rosetta Stone and the decipherment took place on the 27th of September, 1822, a day which later became the World Tourism Day. So how is this day marked on the international level?
Well, it's marked as the day, unfortunately, of the Tourism Day, but very few people know the information you just mentioned. And this should be more and more told to people, because this is the real reason and the naming of this celebration as the Tourism Day, 27th of September. But actually it took as many years as he needed, because it took him about 22 years to discover this. So it was quite a job.
Yes, so sir, also if we talk more about this important event and the decipherment of the hieroglyphs, to what extent the decoding of the hieroglyphs was key to our knowledge today of all of the ancient times and the history?
Well, definitely this was key, because before this they did not recognize the signs. They saw them as signs, and they didn't understand the meaning, because if we have to mention in history also, in 536 or 535, the emperor of Byzance at the time, which was Greece or Eastern Rome, he abolished the usage of Egyptian language by killing the last priests who were celebrating in Philae temples and who knew something about the ancient Egyptian language. Some people say the Arabs did it. The Arabs had nothing to do with it. It was done earlier.
So, sir, if we talk about World Tourism Day this year and how it was celebrated here in Egypt and worldwide, especially after COVID-19, of course.
Yes, I mean, we mark it every day. As I said, we have a celebration, either in Egypt or in other countries.
Yes.
And in Egypt this year, we had celebration by the private sector, but not by the government. The Ministry of Tourism did not have any celebration in this respect because the ministry is very new. So we have really a reason why they did not celebrate it. But the private sectors, many NGOs, non-government organizations, did a celebration on this, talked about it, but not as many as we should have had because we are the country which needed to do its most to celebrate this occasion.
Sir, also the theme for World Tourism Day 2022 is rethinking tourism for people and the planet. How do you read this theme?
Well, this is very, very important. And
Yes.
I just finished writing an article to Al-Ahram Al-Iqtisadi, which is the economic review of Al-Ahram, about this.
Yes.
The rethinking the future of tourism. This is very important.
Yes.
Because we have been through COVID, we have been through the war in Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia. And we see the world is changing. It's changing. Why? Because of technology. And there is a lot of advances in technology, and the world has changed. And the future of tourism will be different from its past. And we have to adapt to it. We'll have less people working for tourism. So to create new jobs, as we say, tourists create jobs, we have to find either new destination or new activities in Egypt. And we have plenty. God blessed Egypt with a lot of things to do. So we have plenty of new activity to propose to the tourists. But getting back on the technology side, as I said, the number of workers has decreased tremendously in the past because of COVID. And because since the 26th of January, the number of tourists has decreased tremendously. So the number of workers in the tourism industry. So we have to rethink in light of all what I've mentioned now. I'm sorry because
it's okay, sir. It's okay.
Yeah. So we have to rethink in light of what I've mentioned how tourism will be. As I said, it will rely basically on technology more than anything else. And we can see the advances every day of technology. There are robots now. During the pandemic, they were serving people with robots. So this is just one aspect, but also the way of booking, the yield management in tourism, for hotels, for airlines, etc. And the other thing is that the airlines lost considerable amount of money. The total losses of the airline just last year is $289 billion. I'm speaking about the airline, not about the air industry. The air industry has lost, because it includes then airports, it includes companies like those who build airplanes, it lost over $1 trillion. So this is a big, big loss. And the only way to work in the future is to rethink, and this is very important. And we have to, as I said, build new products to attract people, but also to think now that even Egyptians and others are booking through the .com. Everybody comes to me now and says, I have my hotel booked. And so the role of the travel agent like us will be different. It will be to advise, because the guy comes to us already with a booking. He confirmed his air seat because he finds it on all the media, all the social media. So he doesn't need me for this. So the essence of our existence will be based on what we can do as other services, like booking theaters, like booking restaurants, like booking services on ground. But the role, and then we see also the role of the wholesaler, the one who makes the packages and sells, is being shrinking all the time. Less wholesaler, and because everybody can go straight to the service, the people who render the service, he doesn't need in between. So this is altering tremendously the industry. And we have to rethink, as I said, and with each company or each country in the role of capacity available in this country. The role of the government offices also will be reduced tremendously. We don't need any more office, a tourism office in New York or in Paris, because before the clients or the guests used to go to the tourism office and ask questions. Now we find all the answers on Google. So everybody is using Google, even my grandchildren. So it's no time anymore to have the government offices and spend the money. We'd rather spend it in advertising and promotion in other ways.
Yes, sir. Also, to what extent hosting the upcoming COP27 here in Egypt in the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh will help in promoting for Egyptian tourism abroad and for conferences tourism in particular?
Thank you. This is a very valid question, and because also this is my field of activities, and the conferences promote tremendously the destination. Plus, it brings a lot of income to the country. Why? Because number one, the hotels sell the room double or single at the same price. So this encourages the people who will attend to bring their wife or their husband, it depends who is the attendee. And in this way, they can have more time and free time to visit and to have activities. Plus, one of the main activities is shopping. And people shop a lot. And I remember when we had the ICPD, which is the population conference in Egypt, people, the Europeans were shopping the suits for the man or the shirts. And the Africans were buying casseroles. You know, Tefal, it was new at that time in 1994, and Egypt produced them. So they were shopping. So it's useful from this sense in spending the money. Plus, the people, when they go back, if they are satisfied, they will definitely tell their friends, neighbors, and relatives about their trip to Egypt, which in itself you don't need to promote to these people because somebody else will do it on your behalf and at no cost to you. So you see the benefits will rise on the conference side, and I think we should endeavor, the country should endeavor in getting more conferences, and this is actually what the government is doing and the president is doing, is to invite many conferences to take place in Egypt. And this is very, very clever because it increases the number of potential guests to Egypt, but also, and this is more important, the spending. The average spending of a conferee is 5 times spending of a normal tourist. So you can see the dimension of what this conference can bring to Egypt.
Yes, finally, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Elhamy Ziat, tourism expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Cairo Local Time. Thank you for watching.